showed an old film going back to 1859. I didn't even know they had films back in 1859, but an old, grainy, primitive film from 1859 showing the sizzling that occurred from solar scorching that existed back then. And fortunately, the only lines that were up, the only wires that were up were telegraph lines, because that's all they had in 1859. But now, of course, it's going to devastate the economy. You can't buy anything in a supermarket unless the computers, are running. Unless the gas pumps don't run without electricity, nothing operates. So another thing is obviously food. People have to start storing food.
Okay, let me interrupt you here for just a second, because folks, if you go to freeamerican.com now, you can get samples of storable foods free right now by going to Free American. It's kind of down on the left-hand side of the page. Actually, it's the information there is right beside, right above the show that you're listening to today, right beside Ray Stevens, God Save America. It says, click here to learn how we can prepare while we're creating Liberty Villages, and the address is freeamerican.mysundanceglobal.com. Now this is a new company that is set up that is doing storable foods, and you can get it, you can make it, you can tell your friends about it, and it's working. So it's one of the ways that we're going to prepare about it. Now, John, I started talking about Liberty Villages a long time ago. I had it in the centerfold of my magazine for many months. Do you recall that?
I remember that going back in the mid '90s. You were talking about people trying to organize people so that they could join together and live in communities, free communities. Yes, I definitely do remember that. It was back in Bingham, New Mexico.
Yes, yeah, I had planned to do it there in Bingham, and then that kind of bit the big one when I sold the property to develop it. I sold the property to develop it, and then they decided they didn't want to develop it.
But the concept was good.
The concept is still good. I mean, we can still do this in our own neighborhoods. It's real simple, folks. The concept for Liberty Village, if you got a farm or a ranch and you're willing to open up a few acres of your land to allow people to live on it, and I'm talking about allowing Americans to live on it, not illegal aliens, and not a bunch of Mexicans on riding mowers. I'm talking about Americans teaching, using the farms and ranches that exist now to teach Americans how to grow their own food, how to raise their own animals, how to live in harmony with nature.
Not only is that a great idea, it's a vital idea. It's a survival idea.
I think that's exactly what it is. And all of a sudden, after I came out with this, suddenly we had all these things happening, like the National Animal Identification System, and now Bill S510, which is sponsored by Monsanto, which is basically, Monsanto is simply the incarnation of plank number 9 on the Communist Manifesto, corporate farms, and also plank number 7, government ownership of factories and agriculture. And suddenly they're trying to make it impossible or illegal for us to create the Liberty Villages. Oh, Clay, the zoning department would never let you put a windmill on the roof of your house. And some of these neighborhood associations won't allow you to have solar on your roof. And now with S510, they're going to make it illegal for you to grow a tomato in your backyard. Maybe am I just being paranoid here? I mean, it seems like every time I come up with an idea.
True. I mean, the Israelis did that to the Palestinians way back in the 1980s. They forced them to have a license for every tomato they grew. That's how dictatorial and enslaving the system is.
Oh, now wait a minute. That's the other thing. Now, Clay, you'd just be so much better off if you just didn't talk about the Jews. If you just didn't talk about Israel. Hey, okay, all right. I'll stop talking about the Jews when they stop talking about the Palestinians. How's that?
Right. Well, it's a lot of Jews are not guilty of it. It's just the leadership of Israel, the Zionist leadership. And of course, the people are just guilty in a way too, because they condone it. They allow, just as the American people are guilty of condoning the atrocities that our evil government commits by are simply sitting down and watching TV and drinking a beer and not caring about anything. People are apathetic, and they certainly do share in the blame for the atrocities that are committed by evil leaders, not whether those people be in Israel or they be American citizens.
Well,
So
that's the one problem.
Evil Zionist government, the leaders, they're the ones responsible for all this.
They are. It is the elitists. I've said this over and over again. If you're, it doesn't matter to me whether you're Jewish, whether you're Muslim, or whether you're a Christian. It doesn't matter to me whether you're black, white, yellow man, whatever. It doesn't matter to me as long as you're not trying to dominate or kill or possess what your neighbor has.
Yes, right. So they're doing it. They're enslaving us. They're enslaving all the peoples of the world. You can find it happening in Germany and England, etc., all over. It's worse in England. It's worse in Canada than it is here. So, but one thing's get really bad when you start seeing roofs getting blown off houses, and you see disasters in the streets. You see towns being flooded away, which we're seeing right now. I'm not predicting some horrific, imaginary scene from the future. I'm telling you what's actually happening right now. You're seeing towns floating away in Germany. I got it on videotape from the Weather Channel. You're seeing towns floating away in Pakistan. The whole nation is floating away in Pakistan. In Poland, towns floating away. I've got it all on videotape. When this happens, the government that suddenly loses its control, and that's what they're afraid of. They're afraid of these disasters causing the people to thumb their nose at the government and all their dictatorial rules, because they know darn well the government's not going to be able to enforce these rules when things get tough. Your local police are going to be out there trying to protect themselves from floods, and your local police are now going to be forced to do humanitarian things like have water rescues. Right now you've got water rescues happening all over the place in Dallas, Texas, Dallas, Austin area over the last couple of days. The Weather Channel shows water rescues happening all over the country. I cannot tell you how many epic floods have occurred in the last several years that I've got all documented on videotape. Washington State, Oregon, California, Texas a couple of times. Texas, epic floods with only a couple months away, epic drought. And epic floods in New Orleans, and epic floods in Louisville, Kentucky, epic floods in Atlanta, Georgia, where even some of the Weather Channel's own meteorologists got their homes flooded out. Epic floods in Baltimore, epic floods in New England, Rhode Island, Massachusetts. The whole country has had epic flooding. What do the police do then? Do they become good little Gestapo and follow all the government's dictatorial rules and infuriate the people? No. They try the best to do the water rescues, to try to save the lives that they're committed to save. And then all of a sudden they find out that they're with the people and not with the rats at the top.
Now, do we have a timeline on there? Now, the Hopi Indians and the Mayans all predicted that this was coming about, didn't they?
Oh, yeah, definitely, yes. The Hopi, they had seen it. Their ancestors had seen this happening. The Anasazi Indians was another tribe, a very highly technological tribe from the southwest. They vanished. No one knows what happened to the Anasazi. But they had a highly advanced mathematical system, and they were very well schooled and knowledgeable about the movement of the planets. They made planetary observation a very important part of their culture, and the reason was because they knew that whenever you had certain planetary conditions, you had disaster. They were looking for planetary conjunctions, when the planets would all align, and the force of all these aligning planets then would be multiplied, would be compounded on planet Earth, that would cause earthquakes. So the Hopi knew about it, the Anasazi knew about it. We have other civilizations that talked about it, that documented it. The Emperor Yaltu, I think his name was Yaltu, Y-A-L-T-O-U, of China, was the emperor who reigned at the very